And transparency was a major theme of your lecture, and obviously something that is very, very important to you. But do you find in English culture or British culture that we've all grown up in, there's sometimes a temperamental resistance or a cultural or professional resistance to it, that people are just uncomfortable with it, but they don't necessarily know why?
Yeah, you know, it's quite new for me, really, this whole transparency thing. It's really quite new. I haven't always been like this. It's something that maybe this year, the last kind of 2 years. Oh, well, no, well, yeah, you know, from when we first met, probably the last 2 years. Yeah, I've always been quite a...
I should just clarify, that sounded a bit ominous.
Yeah, no, yeah.
We didn't meet in prison.
Yeah, no.
We went on a road trip for Comic Release for 2 weeks. We drove from Nairobi into Uganda, didn't we? Well, some of us drove. I think you drove for 9 consecutive minutes.
Yes, because my driving is just not healthy for anyone.
Well, you know.
Oh yeah, I tried, and then everyone was like, you know what, let's just stop the cars. You know what, Michaela? Why don't you try the passenger seat? What do you think? And I'm like, that's a great idea.
Michaela,
I think that's great.
Let's make you the DJ.
Yes, yeah, I'm like, I'm good with music. So I'll do the tunes. Yeah.
And Reggie will do the drums.
Exactly.
But yes, so just elaborate on that a little bit if you can, like what it was that triggered that or prompted that, this new curiosity and interest in transparency in the last couple of years. No particular one thing.
I don't know. I mean, it could be writing.
Yeah.
It really could.
Was it partly to do, and you talked about this in your lecture, the desire to be more in control and in charge of your babies, of your stories, that you sort of were encountering things of, you know, I mean, when I write TV and you have a vague sense of, don't write nighttime scenes. You know, I remember writing sketches at dinner and it would be like, could this be lunch? You know, and then we won't have to black out all the windows or pay for actors in the night. You know, you sort of start to get a sense of what's going to cost people a lot of money to make.
Yes, and you want to know.
Necessary, and you want to know what's in the budgets.
So you know how to make the show easy for everyone. You know, if you don't know, it's like I could be writing a show when then a jet plane comes and then we go to Spain and then, you know, somewhere else, and then they're like, well, we have this much for the budget. It's like, if you know, limitations are great. Yeah. So it's like, oh, now that I know we have this much, I can make this amazing story that costs us like this much. But if you don't share everything.
And you evolve, I think, as a writer and as a collaborator, because TV is a naturally collaborative process. You can't do it all on your own. Yeah. And I mean, I remember something particularly that illustrates what you're saying, was that when I wrote a sketch about Charlotte Church drinking a drink called Cheeky Fanta, and I just put very quickly, I didn't even think about it, I put, the layers of the drink are purple, red, orange, and then carried on writing the sketch. And a while later, when we were in production, I went down into where the art department, and they seemed a bit stressed. And I said, what are you doing? They said, we spent about 3 days trying to find a way to layer up the drink so that it's real and you can drink it, but they're in layers. And I just thought, oh shit. I said, please, like, that could so easily be cut. I said, if you... That is not the joke or the focus. Yeah. I literally
but that's amazing, though, that they were trying to do their job so much.
And I said, please, before you do this again, come and tell me that, and then I'm sure 9 times out of 10 we'll just cut it. And you realise the power you have as a writer. Sometimes you don't even know yourself, because everyone is trying to please you to some extent.
Working on this script that you've made, you know.
And that's wonderful, because they're treating it as precious. But if the production or the producer doesn't involve the writer properly in the process with this transparency, then how are you ever supposed to know or help?
How do we learn? Yeah, which is, you know, what I said yesterday. You know, if we aren't taught by the people that know, how do we find out?
I mean, and there are many writers who go on to be part of the producing team, particularly, I think in the States it seems like a very prevalent thing. I mean, sometimes writers are just credited as producers and not even writers. But is that something you have grown more interested in, is even producing your own work? I think you've even mentioned when we were out in Kenya about directing and all of that, that level of taking charge of the whole world that you've created so that it is wholly your vision. I mean, you really are an auteur in that sense? Is that something that excites you?
Yeah. And only this year I do have a production company now, but it's not because I want to build an empire from it. It's because I want to look after my children. And that's it. Then nothing goes beyond that. And I think it's it's a way to kind of try to create a transparent space between the people you're working with, who also want transparency. I've had to now learn to seek out people who are willing to be transparent, and that often comes at the risk of, losing everything.
Yes.
But I don't mind.
Yes.
Because I would rather have transparency.
I think once you find a group of people that you can really trust, you don't let those people go, I think. And a lot of writers, if you're lucky enough, you find a producer who becomes your producer, who really understands you, or a director, and then it becomes the most, the glorious collaboration that can happen then.
But also just like read through everything, man. So and that's where that's how you learn to trust. You have to read through everything. And we're so busy, writing imaginary worlds that takes so much time and mental energy that we sometimes disregard our contracts and our learning and our, I'm like, maybe there's, even if you don't want to be a producer, maybe there's like a book online called Producing for Dummies, I had my book, what did I buy? Script Writing for Dummies when I was first writing, because I don't know what I'm doing. So it's just to know. I
think that is part of the responsibility, and I think that there is this notion that artists and creative people are flighty and difficult, and shouldn't have too much of a dose of reality or something. And I think it does everyone a disservice, because I think of myself now as a small business called Katy Brand.
That's right, girl.
And I need to keep abreast of every part of it, and that we have a question actually that plays into this a bit, that's just come up about what you mentioned in your lecture, where you became aware when you had a deal offered to you of a huge amount of money, that they were also going to try and take some of the copyright or the ownership, or all of it. And how does it? Is that a difficult thing for you to do, to take that? Was that very hard for you to take that amount of control back and to say no to that amount of money?
Well, the first thing I asked was, why do you want to take all of the copyright? But just because I want transparency. And when the answer is, that's just not the way it is, I'm already out. That doesn't sound like a good answer to me.
No.
It sounds cloudy.
Yes.
Which means I don't trust.
But bizarre that it seems to be a strangely casual attitude to something that you have created, that you would just give it away, or this sense that not everything.
So much because creatives, bless us, we want to share. That's the reason why we're doing this. And when someone gives you the opportunity to share, because that's your goal, sometimes you just take it. But I've learned now to go, what are the terms and what are the conditions, and why is that the way it is? Just checking. And when there's not answers, sometimes there's a great answer at the end and you go, oh, okay, cool. But when the answer is, that's the way it is, or
there's sometimes a pervasive view in this business and lots of businesses, which is everyone has their price, and turning away from $1 million. Did you find that hard, or had you not even thought of it as yours?
Yeah, I hadn't. I mean, I don't care. No.
And that's very free. I mean, the level of control you can then exert over what you do and don't do, because you just don't care about that amount of money. I mean, it's one piece of advice someone gave me once, which I have not followed at all, unfortunately, which is keep your overheads low.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, as in, the costs you have of running yourself, whether it's your mortgage, whether it's the size of the house that you buy, how good a car you have, the overheads, the running costs of your life.
So I was told the same thing many years ago, back when I was a Christian, by a guy who said to me, if your money expands, do not expand your lifestyle. So it's good to, my personal thing, and I learned more and more, you know. I remember at one point my closet was just filled with clothes, Topshop, Urban Outfitters, And I just was like, oh, let me just give this to charity, because why do I need all these clothes? You know, like, this is a lot of clothes for one person. And so then just kind of bringing everything down means there's like a bit more freedom to make the choices you want to make when you realise you don't need certain things, you know. I think for me, you know, and I think it's important to think about what we feel we need and why.
Yes.